What happens when the most unpredictable former president in American history sits down with one of television's sharpest interviewers? The Graham Norton Show has seen its share of awkward moments, celebrity feuds, and unexpected drama. But nothing could have prepared the audience for what unfolded when Donald Trump appeared as a guest. This wasn't just another promotional interview. This was a masterclass in tension, ego, and the kind of television that makes you lean forward in your seat, unable to look away. Before we dive into exactly what went down, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me whose side you're on after hearing this story. Trust me, you're going to have opinions. The evening started innocuously enough. Graham Norton, with his signature charm and that mischievous glint in his eye, welcomed Trump onto the famous red couch. The studio audience erupted in a mix of applause and uncertain murmurs. You could feel the electricity in the air. This was uncharted territory for both men. Norton, known for getting celebrities to let their guard down with wine and witty banter, was facing someone who never let their guard down. Trump, a man who had faced countless interviewers and emerged either victorious or defiant, was entering the domain of a host who specialized in disarming even the most media-trained guests. Norton started with what seemed like a softball. "So, Donald, lovely to have you here. I have to say, you're quite possibly the most talked about person on the planet. How does that feel?" Trump settled into the couch, adjusting his tie. "Well, Graham, I'll tell you, it's tremendous. People love talking about me. I get ratings like nobody's ever seen. When I'm on television, millions watch. Millions. Your show tonight, probably the biggest audience you've ever had." The audience laughed, but it was unclear whether they were laughing with him or at him. Norton smiled, that knowing smile that suggested he had something up his sleeve. "Yes, well, we do all right for ourselves usually, but speaking of ratings and attention, you've certainly had your share of controversial moments. Some might say you thrive on controversy." Trump leaned forward slightly. "I don't thrive on controversy, Graham. I thrive on winning. I thrive on being right. Sometimes being right makes people uncomfortable. That's not my problem. That's their problem." Norton nodded, swirling his wine glass. "Interesting. So, when you said that thing about what was it? Let me remember." He paused theatrically. Yes. When you suggested that certain countries were, how did you put it? Not sending their best people. Were you being right or were you being controversial?" The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Trump's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I was being honest. Something that people in your business seem to have forgotten how to be. I say what everyone else is thinking. That's why people love me." Norton's smile never wavered. "Do they though? Love you? I mean, because I've seen some rather large crowds of people who seem to feel quite differently. In fact, when you visited London, there was that rather famous balloon, wasn't there?" The audience began to titter with nervous laughter. This was the moment everyone would later point to as the beginning of the unraveling. Trump's face shifted from confident to irritated in an instant. "That balloon was made by losers. Sad, pathetic people who have nothing better to do than make balloons because they can't win elections. I won. They lost. The balloon was tiny, by the way. The media made it seem huge, but it was small. Very small." Norton leaned back, clearly enjoying himself now. "Small, Donald. It was rather large actually. I saw it myself. Quite impressive in its own way. But let's move on, shall we? I'm curious about your relationship with the truth. You've been fact-checked more than perhaps any public figure in modern history. Does that bother you?" Trump's voice rose slightly. "Fact-checkers are fake news. Graham, they're biased. They have an agenda. When I say something, it's true. When they say I'm wrong, they're wrong. It's very simple. I have the best information. I know more than almost anyone about almost everything." Graham Norton, to his credit, maintained his composure beautifully. More than almost anyone about almost everything. That's quite a claim. "So, you'd know more about, say, British politics than someone who lives here?" Trump didn't hesitate. "Absolutely. I know your politicians. Some of them are friends of mine, great people. Some of them not so much. But I understand what's happening in Britain probably better than most British people." The audience was no longer laughing. They were watching with rapt attention, waiting to see how far this would go. Norton seized the moment. "Fascinating. And you'd know more about climate science than climate scientists." Trump waved his hand dismissively. "Climate change is a hoax created by China to make American manufacturing non-competitive. I've said this many times. The scientists you're talking about are paid to say what they say. I'm not paid by anyone. I'm independent. I think for myself." Norton's eyebrows raised slightly. You think climate change is a hoax created by China? Even though you've on multiple occasions seen the effects of extreme weather, rising sea levels, and have properties that are literally affected by these changes. Trump's face was wringing now. My properties are fine. They're beautiful. The best properties in the world. And I know what's a hoax and what isn't. I've been right about everything, Graham. Everything. People doubted me when I said I'd run for president. I won. People doubted me when I said I'd build the wall. I built it. People doubt me now, and I'm still winning. Norton took a sip of his wine, letting the silence hang for just a moment too long. You built the wall. I'm not sure that's entirely accurate, is it? I mean, portions were built, portions were renovated, but the entirety of what you promised didn't quite materialize, did it? This was the inflection point. Trump's entire demeanor changed. He was no longer the confident showman. He was a man being challenged, being questioned, being treated not as the center of the universe, but as a guest who needed to answer for his statements. That's fake news, Graham. Typical media lies. The wall was built. It's there. It's protecting America. You can't just say things that aren't true on your show. The irony of that statement was not lost on Norton or the audience. Norton leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. Donald, I'm simply asking questions based on publicly available information. If you're uncomfortable with questions, perhaps this wasn't the right venue for you. Trump stood up abruptly, his face now fully flushed. I'm not uncomfortable with anything. I'm the most comfortable person you'll ever meet. What I'm uncomfortable with is being ambushed on a show that's supposed to be fun and entertaining. This isn't journalism, Graham. This is a hit job. Norton remained seated, that signature calm never leaving his face, but there was something sharper in his eyes now. He gestured to the couch with his wine glass. Donald, please sit down. Nobody's ambushing you. I ask all my guests questions. Some of them are challenging. That's part of what makes conversation interesting, don't you think? Trump remained standing, looking down at Norton with barely concealed fury. Interesting. You want interesting? Let me tell you what's interesting. What's interesting is that I agreed to come on your little show, give you the ratings boost you desperately need, and this is how you treat me. With disrespect, with fake questions based on fake news. The audience had gone completely silent. This wasn't the playful banter they were accustomed to. This was genuine conflict, raw and unfiltered. Norton set his wine glass down on the table. His movements deliberate and measured. Little show. Donald, the Graham Norton Show is one of the most watched chat shows in the world. We don't need you for ratings. We invited you because we thought it would be interesting to have a conversation. Clearly, I was mistaken about your willingness to have an actual conversation. Trump pointed at Norton, his voice rising. Don't you dare talk to me about conversation. I've had conversations with world leaders, presidents, kings, people who actually matter. You sit here on your red couch getting celebrities drunk and asking them silly questions about their movies. That's not conversation, Graham. That's entertainment for people who don't have anything better to do. Norton stood up now, and while he was considerably shorter than Trump, he somehow seemed to occupy more space. Yes, it is entertainment. That's quite literally the point. But even in entertainment, there's room for honesty and accountability. You came here knowing full well what this show is. You agreed to sit on this couch, drink wine, and have a chat. What you're really upset about is that I'm not fawning over you the way you're accustomed to. Trump laughed, but it was a harsh sound without any humor in it. Fawning. I don't need anyone to fawn over me. My accomplishments speak for themselves. I've done more in 4 years than most people do in a lifetime. I've created jobs. I've strengthened the economy. I've made America respected again. What have you done, Graham? Made people laugh. Congratulations. Very impressive. The condescension in Trump's voice was palpable. And Norton's response was ice cold. Yes, actually, I've made people laugh. In a world full of division and anger and people like you who thrive on chaos, making people laugh is rather important. It brings joy. It creates moments of unity. It reminds people that we're all human. But beyond that, I've created a space where honest conversations can happen, where people can be vulnerable and real. You, however, don't seem capable of either. Trump's eyes narrowed. I'm more real than you'll ever be. Everything about me is real. My success, my businesses, my impact on history. You want to talk about being human? I connect with millions of people, real people, working people, not the elite snobs who watch your show and think they're sophisticated because they laugh at your jokes. Norton tilted his head slightly. Elite snobs. Donald, you were born into wealth. You've lived in a golden tower with your name on it. You've spent your entire life surrounding yourself with luxury and excess. And you have the audacity to talk about real people and working people as if you have any idea what their lives are actually like. Trump stepped closer to Norton, his presence aggressive and imposing. I know exactly what their lives are like because I fight for them every single day. I fight against people like you who look down on them, who mock them, who think they're stupid. Those people elected me because they knew I was on their side. They knew I understood them. What do you understand, Graham? How to ask vapid questions and giggle at your own jokes. Norton didn't back away. If anything, he seemed more relaxed now, as if Trump's aggression had confirmed something he'd already suspected. I understand that when someone is this defensive, this angry at being asked simple questions, it usually means they're hiding something. What are you hiding, Donald? What are you so afraid of? That a conversation on a chat show threatens you this much? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Trump's mouth opened and closed, searching for words. When he spoke, his voice was lower, but no less intense. I'm not afraid of anything. I've faced things you couldn't even imagine. I've been investigated, prosecuted, attacked from every direction, and I'm still standing, still fighting, still winning. You think your little questions scare me? You think you can intimidate me with your smug British attitude and your wine glass? Norton picked up his wine glass and took a slow, deliberate sip. I'm not trying to intimidate you, Donald. I'm simply treating you the way I treat everyone else. With questions, with curiosity, with a bit of skepticism, when what you're saying doesn't match reality. If that feels like intimidation to you, perhaps you should ask yourself why. Trump turned to the audience, spreading his arms wide. You see this? This is what they do. They twist everything. They make you look like the bad guy when all you're doing is defending yourself. I came here in good faith and I'm being attacked. This is exactly what happens every single time. The media, the establishment, they can't handle the truth, so they attack the messenger. Someone in the audience coughed, breaking the tension momentarily. Norton glanced at the audience and then back at Trump. Donald, literally nobody is attacking you. I asked you about things you've said publicly, decisions you've made publicly, and you've responded by insulting me, insulting the show, insulting the audience, and playing the victim. Do you not see how absurd that is? Trump shook his head, his expression one of disbelief mixed with contempt. Absurd. I'll tell you what's absurd. What's absurd is that I have to sit here and be lectured by a talk show host about reality. You live in a bubble, Graham. A nice comfortable bubble where nothing you say or do has real consequences. I live in the real world, where decisions matter, where actions have weight. You wouldn't last a day in my world. Norton smiled and it was genuine this time. You're absolutely right. I wouldn't last a day in your world because your world is exhausting. It's constant conflict, constant drama, constant need for validation and attention. My world, this world is about connection and laughter and finding common ground. And yes, sometimes it's about holding people accountable when they say things that are demonstrably false or harmful. If that's too much for you, then perhaps you're right. Perhaps this wasn't the right venue. Trump grabbed his jacket from the back of the couch, his movements sharp and angry. You know what, Graham? You're right about one thing. This isn't the right venue. This is a waste of my time. I thought maybe we could have a real conversation, but you're just like all the rest. You have your agenda, your narrative, and nothing I say will change that. So, I'm done. I'm not going to sit here and be disrespected on national television. Norton's voice was calm, almost gentle now. Donald. The only person who's been disrespectful tonight is you. But if you want to leave, nobody's stopping you. The door is right there. Trump stared at Norton for a long moment. And in that silence, you could feel the weight of every eye in the studio. The cameras continued rolling, capturing every second of this unprecedented standoff. Trump's hand gripped his jacket so tightly his knuckles had gone white. He looked at the door, then back at Norton, then at the audience, as if trying to find someone, anyone who would validate his position. Norton broke the silence first, his voice softer now, but no less firm. You know, Donald, I've interviewed hundreds of people on this couch. Actors, musicians, politicians, activists, people from every walk of life. Some of them have done things they're not proud of. Some of them have made mistakes. But the ones I respect most are the ones who can acknowledge that, who can sit here and have a real conversation without needing to be right about everything. That takes strength. Real strength. Not the kind you project, but the kind that comes from being secure enough in yourself to be questioned. Trump's jaw clenched. Don't lecture me about strength. You have no idea what strength is. Strength is standing up to an entire system that wants to destroy you. Strength is fighting back when everyone tells you to quit. Strength is not backing down, not apologizing, not giving them what they want. Norton nodded slowly. But what if what they want is just honesty? What if people aren't out to destroy you? They're just exhausted by the constant need for everything to be a battle. What if you could just sit down, have a glass of wine, and talk like a normal person without turning it into a war? Trump laughed again. That same harsh sound. A normal person. Graham, I'm not a normal person. I've never been a normal person. Normal people don't become president. Normal people don't build empires. Normal people don't change the world. And yes, that means I don't do things the normal way. I don't sit here and play nice when I'm being attacked. Norton set his wine glass down with a soft click. But that's just it. Donald, you're not being attacked. That's what you're not understanding. Being questioned isn't the same as being attacked. Being held accountable isn't the same as being persecuted. The fact that you can't tell the difference is actually quite revealing. Trump's face contorted with frustration. You don't get to tell me what I'm experiencing. You don't get to define my reality. I know when I'm being attacked because it happens to me constantly from the media, from my opponents, from people who smiled to my face and then stabbed me in the back. You think you're different? You think your polite British manners make this anything other than what it is? Norton stepped closer now, and his voice carried a weight it hadn't before. What exactly do you think this is, Donald? Because from where I'm standing, this is a man who's so used to people either worshipping him or hating him that he's completely forgotten how to have a normal human interaction. You came on this show expecting one of two things. Either I'd treat you like a king or I'd attack you like an enemy. And when I did neither, when I simply treated you like a guest and asked you questions, your entire framework collapsed. The observation landed like a physical blow. Trump stood there, his mouth slightly open, struggling to formulate a response. For perhaps the first time in the entire exchange, he looked genuinely uncertain. Norton continued, his voice quieter now. I don't worship you and I don't hate you, Donald. I'm curious about you. I wanted to understand how someone with your background, your experiences, your platform sees the world. But you won't let anyone in. You can't because the moment you stop performing, the moment you're just a person sitting on a couch having a conversation, you're vulnerable and you can't allow yourself to be vulnerable. Trump's voice when he finally spoke was tight with barely controlled emotion. Vulnerability is weakness. In my world, you show weakness and you're done. Finished. People smell blood in the water and they destroy you. So, no, I don't do vulnerable. I do strong. I do winning. I do fighting. That's how you survive. Norton's expression softened almost imperceptibly. But Donald, you're not in your world right now. You're in mine. And in this world, on this couch, vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the only thing that actually connects people. All those millions of people you say love you, do they really? Or do they love the character you play, the performance? Because I don't think you've let anyone see the real person underneath in a very long time, maybe ever. The silence that followed was deafening. Trump's face cycled through emotions, anger, confusion, something that might have been pain. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper, but somehow more powerful than when he'd been shouting. The real person underneath doesn't matter. What matters is what you accomplish, what you build, the mark you leave. Everything else is just noise. Norton shook his head slowly. That's the saddest thing you've said all night. Because at the end of the day, buildings crumble, empires fall, and what you've accomplished becomes a footnote in history books. What actually matters is the connections you made, the kindness you showed, the humanity you brought to the world. And from everything you've said tonight, I'm not sure you understand that at all. Trump looked at Norton with an expression that was hard to read. Contempt. Pity, recognition. You live in a fantasy world, Graham. A nice fantasy where being kind and making people laugh is enough. But that's not the real world. The real world is hard and cruel, and if you're not tough enough, it eats you alive. I've survived because I'm tougher than everyone else. That's not sad. That's triumph. Norton picked up his wine glass again, swirling the liquid thoughtfully. Is it, though? Because from where I'm sitting, you look exhausted. You look angry. You look like a man who's been fighting for so long he's forgotten what he was fighting for in the first place. That's not triumph, Donald. That's tragedy. Trump's eyes flashed with something dangerous. Don't you dare psychoanalyze me. You don't know me. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what it takes to be me. So keep your pity and your psychology and your wine and your comfortable little life. I don't need any of it. Norton met his gaze evenly. You're right. I don't know what it's like to be you, but I know what I see. And what I see is a man who's terrified of being seen as anything less than perfect, less than powerful, less than right. And that terror has made you incapable of having a genuine conversation with another human being. That's not my judgment. That's just observation. Trump grabbed his jacket fully now, putting it on with sharp, aggressive movements. I'm done with your observations. I'm done with this whole charade. You wanted a show. Congratulations. You got one. But don't pretend this was ever about conversation. This was about you trying to make yourself look smart at my expense. Trying to score points with your audience by taking shots at me. Well, enjoy your moment, Graham. Because that's all it is, a moment. I'll still be here, still fighting, still winning long after people forget this ever happened. Norton smiled and there was genuine sadness in it. People won't forget this happened, Donald. That's the thing about moments like these. They reveal who people really are. And you've revealed yourself tonight more than you probably realize. Not in what you said, but in how you reacted to simply being treated like everyone else. Trump moved toward the exit, his movement stiff with wounded pride. He turned back one last time, pointing at Norton. You think you won something here tonight? You think you got the better of me? But all you did was prove exactly what I've been saying all along. The media, the establishment, people like you. You can't handle anyone who doesn't play by your rules, who doesn't bow down, who doesn't apologize. I never apologize, Graham. Not to you. Not to anyone because I have nothing to apologize for. Norton's voice followed him calm and clear. I never asked you to apologize, Donald. I only asked you to have a conversation, but I suppose that was too much to ask. Trump paused at the door, his back to Norton and the cameras and the silent audience. For a moment, it seemed like he might turn around, like he might say something else, but he didn't. He pushed through the door and was gone, leaving behind a studio full of people who had just witnessed something that would be talked about. For years to come, Norton turned to the camera, his composure never wavering, though something in his eyes suggested the exchange had affected him more than he was letting on. He picked up his wine glass and raised it slightly. Well, that was different. The audience erupted in applause, though it was unclear what exactly they were applauding. The moment itself, Norton's handling of it, the sheer audacity of what they'd just witnessed. Norton let them applaud for a moment before raising his hand for quiet. I think that's probably enough excitement for one evening. Thank you all for being here to witness television history of some sort. So, there you have it. The interview that ended before it really began. The clash that nobody expected, but perhaps everyone should have seen coming. If you made it this far, make sure you subscribe and drop a comment below answering this question. Do you think Graham Norton was right to push back the way he did, or should he have gone easier on his guest? Let me know what you think.